Let's start. All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the June 21st, 2023 meeting of the Auburn School Committee. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, and start with introductions down to my right, please.
Dan Poisson, Ward 5.
Brian Belknap, Ward 4.
Pam Hart, Ward 2.
Karen Matthew, Ward 3.
Connie Brown, Superintendent.
Pam Albert at large.
Jason Lebeck, Mayor.
Mark Conrad, Business Manager.
Sue Doris, Assistant Superintendent.
I know Pat Gaudier has an excused absence this evening. I am not sure what happened to our Ward 1 rep. All right, we're going to begin with a motion to enter into an executive session pursuant to 1 MRSA 4056A for the purpose of employment of officials, appointees, or employees. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Brian. Have a second? Thank you, Pam. Motion to enter into executive session. All those in favor? Motion passes. All right, we will enter into the conference room off to the side over here. All right, my mic is back on. Can I entertain a motion to enter regular session, please?
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Brian, okay, Pam first, Brian, all those in favor, to enter regular session. Thank you, motion passes. All right, I need a motion, entertain a motion for the approval of tonight's agenda, along with the approval of the June 7th minutes and the nomination of Megan Wood as interim assistant principal at Walton. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Brian. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Pam. Questions, comments on that one? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Motion passes. Congratulations, Megan. Congratulations. All right, public participation. Is there anyone here from the public who would like to address the school committee? I don't see anyone. All right, no presentation. Our school committee reps are off for the summer or have graduated. Next, the superintendent's report. Dr. Brown.
Thank you very much, Chairperson Matthew. My remarks are going to be quite brief and succinct. I wanted to take the opportunity to thank the staff for what has been a remarkable year. We have had a very, very good year in the Auburn School Department, and it is largely due to the efforts of those folks who work closest with the kids. So I want to make sure that they are recognized and thanked. The second item is I want to thank the Auburn community for supporting our budget and supporting the referendum question. 82% is a record to be proud of. We had the highest percentage in favor of our budget of any of our neighboring schools. So that was pretty impressive, and I was very proud to report to the state board that we had those numbers, and they voted again unanimously to support the additional funds for the Edward Little demolition and removal of PCB. So it was a very good day for the Auburn School Department. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. And thank you for all your work in that as well, Dr. Brown. That comes from great leadership, so thank you. All right, no chairperson's report. City Council update, Mr. Mayor? Okay. Committee report. We have any questions on the subcommittee minutes that were reported on the agenda? Any questions, comments? All right, if not, I'll move on. Let's move on to old business. First, I'll entertain a motion for a second reading approval of policy AUB BEDH, public participation at school committee meetings. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Brian. Have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Pam. Questions, comments, debate on that one? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? The motion passes. Thank you. Next, I'll call for a motion for a second reading and approval of policy AUB ADAA, school system commitments to standards for ethical and responsible behavior. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Brian. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Pam. Questions, comments, debate on that one? Pam? Yep.
So I wasn't here last week, the last meeting to ask these questions on the first reading, so I apologize, but I'm going to be asking them on the second reading. One of the questions I have is, how does it seek to create and maintain an ethical and responsible climate? So it looks like this is kind of a setup for like a subcommittee. Is that what we're thinking, that there'll be a subcommittee created to identify the core values for the foundation of an ethical, responsible school culture?
This was already done, and this was a policy that was missing from our handbook. So this policy needed to be added in because it's a required policy. So this process has already happened in the past, where the core values have been identified.
Okay, I also have another question. It talks a lot about students and students being ethical and responsible. Why is there not more language about the adults? Because it's a whole school system one. It's not just a student policy.
Is there one already for employees? I'm not sure the question on
I
that.
don't think so.
Because of the title of it being the school system commitment, I was thinking it should be students and adults.
I do not know the answer.
Yeah,
to
we're following the MSMA sample, and so we're using the same language that they're using. It does refer to adults in here, but the focus is students.
And I think what it's doing is cross-referencing student code of conduct and suspension of students. So that's why I think this one focuses on students.
So the title should be students. It shouldn't just be school system. That's where my confusion is. because if I were to read this as a policy and I see school system, I would think that it would be the whole school system, not just students, but.
Or it could be, it's the school system's commitment, but it could be standards for ethical and responsible behavior of students.
So is it?
Yeah, if you add that,
Because it's still the school system's commitment to the standards. So it's still the system-wide commitment, I think, but you're right, it is very specific to students. It's a student code of conduct.
so we should change the title to just, to add students.
Ethical and responsible behavior of or for students or something like that, maybe.
Do you want to? Oh, I'm not going to say what I need to do. Right now, the policy is, we're voting on it as it stands right now. So if there are any
A motion to amend
motion
it.
to amend? I don't want to put words in your mouth, and I'm not trying to guide you one way or the other, but this would be something you would, if you feel the need, or,
I would like to make a
Or-
motion to amend and add for students, because I think it is kind of confusing. And I think as a parent, if I were to look at the policy and try to see what's going on, I would want to
So
see
you-
students.
so you want to make a motion to add, so it would be school system commitment to standards for ethical and responsible behavior of students?
Yes.
Okay, Pam put a motion on. Does she have a second?
Second.
All right, any questions, comments, debate on that one? Seeing none, I'll call for, oh, Dan, sorry, Dan, go ahead.
I don't know, I think we should leave it more general, because that would, I think you're leaving it just students, then, if somebody challenges that, I don't know, I think it's, and that's what MSA, I think they run that through their lawyers, so that's why it's written like that, I believe. So, I don't know what Dr. Doris thinks, but kind of where I am at.
I mean, I'm all for an entire system being ethical and responsible, not just the students. So I'm definitely for all of it.
All right, Pam's got a motion. Any other debate? Questions, comments, debate?
So the standards that are outlined, so towards the bottom of the first page, it says, "Will adopt a student code of conduct consistent with statewide standards for student behavior that shall, as required by law," and then it lists all of those student code of conducts that is specific to students.
Students.
So I do feel like this is specific, like student code of conduct is used multiple times throughout this policy. So I feel like it is specific to students.
Okay, any other comments? All right, we'll take a vote on Pam's motion of adding the word, so Pam, you're adding the word of students at the end of this policy? Okay, all right, all those in favor of adding the words of students? 1, 2, motion fails. So back to the original, or any of that motion fails. So I've still got an original motion. Do you have any other questions about that? Okay.
On second page, C, it says, allow administrators to use their discretion to fashion appropriate discipline that examines circumstances pertinent to the case at hand. Will this be based on policy from student code of conduct, or is it of their own volition? Is it their own decision to do whatever they feel deemed necessary? I guess I'm looking for like unbiased response. So is there a code that they would go to for discipline?
We have the student code of conduct.
So there's a handbook that states if this violation happens, this is the consequence. If this happens, this is the consequence. So I think, Pam, what you're, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but if Johnny comes in and he gets 4 detentions for doing something, and Susie comes in and gets 2 detentions, you want to, for doing the same thing, you want to make sure there's equitable.
Exactly. And that's where the
Okay.
discretion part, I'm a little confused about.
And I can't help with that. So this is in the school department's lane, so.
Dr. Doris?
School has a handbook which outlines what actions will be taken when certain behaviors, or offenses occur. And we are also, when you get to the student code of conduct, you will also see that some of the disciplinary actions are based on statute, and they're required.
Okay. All right, any other questions? All right, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of policy AUB ADAA? All those in favor? Thank you. Motion passes. Next, can I call for a motion for a second reading and approval of policy AUB JICIA, weapons, violence, and school safety? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Brian. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Pam. Questions, comments on that one?
I just have
Yep.
one edit, I think, on the second page, under section 3, the second line in that first sentence, I don't think the word "of" should be struck out. I think that we still need the word "of" students.
Principals may engage students in restorative intervention and/or discipline
Discipline
of
of students
Yeah, you need to pop the
who
word "of"
violate
back
this
in there. You
policy.
scrolled it through. We have a bit of a typo, so we'll get through that one.
We'll fix that.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments on that policy? Pam?
I was just questioning why students who are subjected to or observe prohibited conduct are strongly encouraged to report to a staff member or administration. Why are we taking that out? Because school staff and volunteers can speak up, but students can't? And I read through the whole policy, and I don't see it anywhere else in the policy.
Where are you right now?
Sorry, I'm on the second paragraph of weapons violence. It's the crossed out students who are subject. It says school staff and volunteers are required to immediately report incidents of prohibited conduct by students to the building's administrator designee for investigation and appropriate action. But then it's crossed out where it says students who are subjected to or observe prohibited conduct are strongly encouraged to report it to staff member or administrator.
Good question. Why is that one out? Right, it's not,
Strongly encourage is not a mandatory. That's why it's crossed out.
versus required. We have people who are
You don't give-
required
you don't
to
give an
do
option.
so, or mandated reporters, where this is a suggestion that they do it.
Is there anywhere else in a policy where it does talk about this, where, you know, you see something, you say something?
I know the line was crossed out because they're strongly encouraged, so that is no longer, that's not legal language. Strongly encouraged is not legal language. I would, versus school staff and volunteers are certainly required to do so. But I'm not sure legally that that is a sentence that needs to be in there. That doesn't mean it can't happen or that you can't strongly encourage kids to do that, but it's not policy that they have to. It's not required of them that they have to. Okay, that's the way I read it. Dr. Doris, if I'm wrong or missed, or I read that, if I read that wrong, then, okay. Or Pam, as if you had conversations about that at the policy. Okay. Okay, all right. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote on policy. Oh,
Can I ask one other question?
Yep.
So I noticed this when we discussed this in our committee, but in that same paragraph, so we've added in red by students, prohibited conduct by students to the building administrator. Are school staff and volunteers not required to report prohibited conduct of staff to administrators? Like, why are we just listing students? I would think it would be prohibited conduct, period.
yeah, because they're
Especially
listed up
relating to
above.
weapons, violence, bullying, and school safety.
And they're listed up above. Student, staff, and all other persons are expected to
Yeah.
conduct themselves. Sure. So maybe it's school staff and volunteers are required to immediately report incidents of prohibited contact and get out the words by students. They're in red, though, so
Yeah.
there must be a reason they're there in red.
So those must have been added.
But not to anyone else. I'm going to make a motion to strike by students.
Second.
Any questions, comments, debate on that one? Can I have a vote to strike by students? All right, that motion carries. So we've struck the words by students. So now let's go back to the original. Any other questions, comments?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to table this to the next meeting, or to the next meeting post the meeting of the policy committee to review this a little bit more, versus us trying to make ad hoc decisions right here on certain language. There's a more holistic approach.
Yeah, I'll second that to send it back. Any questions or comments about that one? All right, so the motion is to send it back to the policy committee. I'll take a vote. All those in favor? Send it back, clean this up, figure out what it is. But we have for right now done a motion to strike the words by students, so we'll clean that one up. All right, so that one's gone back. Where am I at right now? D, I think. All right, entertain a motion for a second reading and approval of policy AUBJK, student discipline. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Brian. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Pam. Questions, comments on that one, on student discipline? Pam?
One question, so when is and how is this communicated to staff? I did see in a lot of these policies that they're going to be in our handbook, they're going to be on our website, but I guess I just have a question. Is it also going to be something that's presented to parents and students at the beginning of the year so that there are already boundaries set and there are expectations set so they know what those boundaries are?
These are policies that are linked to the student handbooks, so the parents will see them there.
Kind of like boot camp to school 101. Here's the rules kind of stuff.
And also, are educators trained in how to physically remove a child from a situation properly and safely?
Yes, every school has a safety care team that's trained to do that.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Oh, sorry, just did it. Sorry, motion passes. Sorry. I did ask any other questions, right? Okay. I might have skipped it. That's why I was like thinking, did I ask it? All right, next is a second reading. Can I entertain a motion for a second reading approval of policy AUBJICA, student dress code? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Brian. I have a second.
Second.
Thank you. Pam, any questions, comments on that one? Student dress code. Yep, go ahead, Pam. Go for it. Go.
All right, I have a question. The E on the first page, it says others as determined by administration. So this is kind of biased again on someone could be, if an administrator is super conservative or super liberal and they decide, hey, you can have a short skirt, or no, you can't. So I'm just questioning that. Is there a reason why it's in yellow because you were thinking of getting rid of it, or it just kind of opens everything up?
It's in yellow because the administrators wanted to make sure that they would have a say in this if they needed to. They will follow what's here in the policy, A through D.
If I could, I'd like to follow up on what Pam said. That's a good point. And I think we need to take it a step further. I understand where the administration wants that flexibility and latitude, but the fact that they need that flexibility and latitude to me is indicative of a bigger problem. And I'll say it right now. I think our dress code is extremely lax. And of course, the things that are listed A through D, absolute should be there. They should not be allowed to have any articles of clothing that in any way violate those. But I do think that we have a responsibility to impart a little bit more professionalism with our student body than what they're currently showing. And every time I go to a school event or even graduation, and I've heard it from many, many parents and people in the public that they're extremely disappointed with the dress code, if you would, lack of a better term, that our students are conveying. I know I am. And I personally, and I'd like to hear what everybody else thinks, but I would like to kick this back to committee and actually have an established dress code. And I'm not talking collared shirts and skirts that cannot exceed past your index finger when you're standing straight, but certain bare minimums that should apply to the dress code of Auburn. And I do not want to turn administrators into the clothing police. But we need to start establishing some sort of boundaries, if you would, or expectations now, because this doesn't fly when they get in the real world. And I know for a fact it doesn't fly because I used to, not that many years ago, see employees and, conduct interviews of employees that just shouldn't be dressed the way they are. So hopefully that makes sense. From a professionalism standpoint, I think we need to up our game a little bit.
Right, any other questions or comments on this policy right now? Seeing none, and I'm not hearing.
I'd like to make a motion to table this or send this back to committee.
Does he have a second?
Second.
All right, Questions, comments, debate on that? Seeing
Uh,
none?
I just have a
Jason's
comment.
motion. Yep.
I think in general, it's a slippery slope to try to start trying to put limits on what people can wear, especially in a public school system. I think in a private school system, sure, absolutely, dress code. I went to high school with the dress code. But I think in a public school system where you have a variety of students and families, I think it's a really slippery slope. And I don't think that that's something that our administrators should be focusing on, calling kids out for dress code violations. I think there are more important things to be done.
I would agree with you, Pam. Having worked middle school for many years, it's A to D, yes. If you show up and you're not violating A to D, I'm happy to see you. That's my own personal. But right now we have a motion for Jason to send this back. It was seconded. So any other questions, comments on that? Before I call for a vote on that. All those in favor of sending it back? Dan?
I guess I'd ask administration, do they have any trouble now? Like, I mean, do people come barefoot or do they walk around the school barefoot?
No, they don't.
I don't know. I've seen more calves and things and thighs when I walk through that high school or at graduation. It's just, it's about setting them up for success. You can frown all you want, but, let's think about it. The kids, we got to start, and say, sometimes it starts with the parents. I wouldn't let my kids walk out the house, wearing, some of the stuff that I've seen in the public school. But I think we need to set some minimalistic boundaries. I'm not talking about, Catholic school here. It's not uniforms, though I wish we would have them. Okay, it would eliminate a lot of variables. But we have an obligation to produce kids that are ready for society. And it also includes proper behavior, it includes proper dress, and it includes really education, obviously. So I don't think we should brush this under the carpet. I think we should really look at what is the minimum. Hey, should you have shorts that are only a 1-inch inseam? Probably not.
All right, so right now we have a first and a second to send it back to the policy committee for further review. I'm going to call for a vote on that one. All those in favor to send it back for more review on this? All those in favor? 2, motion fails. Back to the original motion, which was the second reading and approval of policy AUB JICA. Any other questions or comments on the full policy? If not, I'll call for a motion. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, motion passes. Thank you. All right, next, second reading and approval of policy AUB JIC Student Code of Conduct. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Brian. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Pam. Questions, comments on this one? Code of Conduct. Pam, you have a question?
Yes.
Jump
So, sorry. I
No,
think
go
it's
for it. Ask your
the-
questions.
I think it's the 4th
Just tell us where you are.
page, H, under the conduct of school bus. Do school buses have their own specific rules of behavior? Because obviously, when a child is in a bus as opposed to in a classroom, there are different rules that should be used.
Yes, they do.
Any other?
And,
Oops,
oh,
sorry.
sorry.
Go ahead. No.
Also, is the code of conduct consistent with the commission of the Department of Education?
Yes, this is based on statute.
Okay. Brian?
I didn't notice this the first time, but because she brought up H, the striking of and other modes of school transportation, what about the vans?
Yeah, why would that be taken off if we're transporting some
Unless
of
it's
our
in here somewhere else, which I may
kiddos
have missed
and
it, but
vans?
it seems like school buses and vans would have the same type of.
I think the intent would be to include the vans. Other modes of transportation could be public transportation, for example, or something like that. The intent would be to include the vans because they're under our care, control, jurisdiction while they're in our vehicles.
So what do we own? We own school buses, we own school vans. What else do we own? Or
Well, I mean, we
school-
own other
or
vehicles for staff, but for students, it's either buses of different sizes or vans.
Okay. On school, so I'm just thinking of language, and I know, I agree with you, Jason. Once the policy committee usually vets through these, they're pretty tight. So this is limiting you to a school bus.
You could simply add the words "and van"
Yeah.
in the title and in the paragraph. That would be clear.
I think it's important not to forget intent.
Right.
Okay, I don't think there's anyone's intent that if, they're in a van, this doesn't apply.
But
I
it's
mean, any
arguable.
vehicle. I
It's
mean,
arguable.
we're trying to solve for outliers here. Hey, it's a free-for-all when we're in a van.
That's what I'm saying.
There's a
That's why
little-
you want it in there. That's why you want, that's why I would want it in there.
I mean, it's the intent of the policy. I mean, you can have it, there's something about being over-prescriptive and spending time on stuff. I mean, I would say it's commonality. I mean, if you have a code of conduct or whatnot in any vehicle, right? I mean, if you want to list every single type of vehicle,
That's why I just asked.
What if we just say
Buses and
conduct on
vans.
school transportation?
Yeah.
And then you don't have to worry about what type of vehicle it is.
Yeah.
So I make a motion to change H, the title of H, to conduct on school transportation.
I second that.
Oh, all right. I'm gonna call that one. All those in favor? That one's favor. So that motion passes. Now back to any other questions on the original policy itself?
I just have one question. On the first page, when it says, let's see, third paragraph, when it says, the code articulates the Auburn School Department, school committee's expectations, should there be an "and" there? The Auburn School Department and school committee's expectations?
Where are you?
Third paragraph, on the first page. On the first page, the third red paragraph, last line. Well, should there be an "and" in between Auburn School Department and school committee's expectations?
I don't think so. I think it's the Auburn School Department, school committee's
Yeah.
expectations. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions on that policy? All right. All those in favor? School code of conduct. Motion passes. Thank you. Next, new business. Thank you for the conversation, everyone. Next, I need a motion to elect a delegate to the Maine School Board's Delegate Assembly from the Auburn School Committee. Do I have a motion to, do it first? Let's do the motion, and then I'll do the conversation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Brian, thank you. Do I have a second? Thank you, Pam. All right, this is, I'll open it up to questions and comments. This is the yearly, in the fall, they have their delegate assembly. I've attended for the last couple of years. It's typically on Zoom and on online. It's usually a Saturday, Friday night and Saturday. So we need to elect a delegate this year. So we've moved to elect a delegate. We haven't named the delegate, so we need to name a delegate.
I nominate Pat Fournier.
That's not
Gauthier,
nice.
Gauthier,
That's
excuse
not
me.
nice, and she's not here. No, you're not. I'm not even going to ask for a second on that one. I'm not looking to throw myself into this ring, but I have done it for a couple of years. If you want to throw my name in there, I don't mind doing it again. If anyone else would like a turn, I would gladly give up that turn too. School committee members, we have Pam Albert has just, thank you, Pam. I'm going to call for the vote right now before you change your mind. All those in favor? Phew, Pam Albert. You are going. We'll send your name. Look for those emails and links right there. Thank you, ma'am. All right, entertain a motion to elect an alternate delegate to the Maine School Board's Delegate Assembly. So just in case.
I nominate Karen Matthews.
Second.
Yeah, thanks. No debate, no questions, no comments on that one. All those in favor? That motion passes. God, at least I'm not an alternate. I will be checking on your health the days leading up to that. All right, next is a motion to approve the appropriation of ESSER 3 funds to support the purchase of curriculum materials recommended by the Curriculum Committee. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion.
Or second.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Brian. Questions, comments on that one? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Great curriculums, by the way. Thank you. Next is a motion to approve up to $100,000 from the current operating budget to purchase a competition field sound system. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Brian. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Pam. Questions, comments on that one? Pam?
Just one question. What line is that $100,000 actually coming from?
This will be picked up on the facilities budget through the equipment line for facilities equipment.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Motion passes. Yay. Mr. Sampson, you won't have to be out there with a bullhorn. All right, next, entertain a motion to end the probationary period for girls volleyball and consider it a fully sponsored Auburn School Department sport. Do I have a motion?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second.
Pam, I heard you. Brian, thank you. Questions, comments on this one? All right, seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Motion passes. Next, I'll entertain a motion to approve Mark Conrad and Amanda Couture as the authorized representatives for the Frank E. Wimmer Scholarship. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Brian. Do I have a second? Thank you, Pam. Questions, comments on that one? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Motion passes. Thank you. Next, I'll entertain a motion to approve the purchase of competition field maintenance equipment from Greens Groomers at a cost of $15,167.49. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Brian. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Questions, comments on that one? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Motion passes. Thank you. Now we can cut the lawn. Next, I'll entertain a motion to approve the purchase of athletic PE equipment from BSN Sports at a cost of $25,904.15.
So moved.
Thank you, Brian. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Pam. Questions, comments on that one? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Thank you. Motion passes. Next is a motion to approve the purchase of art equipment from Dick Blick at a cost of $23,019.50 from NASCO at a cost of $7,978.91. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Brian. I have a second.
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 Thank you, Pam. Questions, comments on that one? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Thank you. Motion passes. And last, entertain a motion to approve the purchase of cosmetology equipment from Cosmoprof at a cost of $27,488. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Brian. I have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Pam. Questions, comments on this one? We are filling up this high school. Call for a vote. All those in favor? Motion passes. Thank you. All right, upcoming meetings. You're here tonight at our June 21st regular school committee meeting. Policy committee will meet, but we will not have another regular school committee meeting until July 12th. Mark your calendars for that one. Any future agenda items or requests for information? No subcommittee meetings in July. What do we have in here? No, that's right. There's none listed on here. There's none listed. Subcommittee meetings start back up again in August. All right, seeing none. Yep.
I just wanted to just put that out there that we're having a yard sale, I believe, this weekend at Edward Little. So if people want to come and maybe pick up a trophy that you might have won in years past, or I don't know, but just come and buy.
8 to 1. 8 o'clock to 1 o'clock. And yes, our administrators from other buildings have gone through. They have taken the items that can be repurposed. I got these questions today. Repurposed in other schools. Anything that can be used again is being used again, and the rest is being open to the general public. So 8 to 1 o'clock, Edward Little High School.
And the proceeds all benefit the classes, the junior through, well, now the senior through sophomore classes.
Yes, for student activities, I believe, along those lines. So the money will stay within the, for the kids at Edward Little. All right, can I entertain a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? The meeting is adjourned. Thank you all. 6:40.
I know. I just feel like